we improve our brain, we learn new things. And I would like to invite the lead engineer for the Department of Financial Cyber Literacy and Educational Projects at the Department of Information Security of the Bank of Russia, Valentina. Valentina, you have the floor. Please welcome to the stage.
Добрый день, дорогие друзья.
Hi everyone. Hi dear friends.
Сейчас запустится презентация у нас.
So I want to run my presentation.
Говорим о финансовой киберграмотности,
We are talking a lot about financial security, financial literacy, and I think it is very important to say it over and over again in order to avoid being scammed by potential criminals. And today we would like to tell you what the Bank of Russia does as the mega regulator of the Russian market so that we protect our population from scammers. We will learn about drops and droppers. Why is it dangerous to become one of the droppers? We will talk about main rules and regulations you have to follow so that you do not get hooked by scammers and you do not lose your money. The scale of the problem can be seen here on the slide. We are calling this, so there are scam operations without one voluntary agreement, but last year, anti-fraud systems, bank anti-fraud systems, repelled more than 72 million operations, financial operations, and protected 13.5 trillion rubles in 2024. This was the amount that have been stolen by scammers and fraudsters, unless it was for the effective actions of these systems and experts. In 2025, the banks prevented more than 40 million attempts for potential scam activities that amount to 4.6 trillion rubles. Still, almost 7 billion rubles were lost during the first quarter of 2025, and this is a big sum of money. And you might think who falls prey from our population, who falls prey to this scammer activity. These could be elderly generation, teenagers, children. The Bank of Russia has annual surveys on the quality of financial security of their services. Last year, we had 429,000 people who took up the survey, and almost 30% of those people faced cybercrime. 9% of those lost their money. At the same time, the main activity is aimed at the people who have constant income of money, so mostly adults who have a job. As a result, the Bank of Russia created a typical portrait for people who might fall prey to scammers, people who suffered from this illegal activity. Turns out that this is a middle-income 25 to 44-year-old woman who lives in the city. In general, it's less than 20,000 rubles per person, but this is average. We had people from all across Russia who took up this survey. But we have to understand that anyone could fall prey, anyone could become a victim. Why does this happen? How do scammers find the key to unlock our security? They use our emotions. They use our pain points. We can understand with our brain that we should not do this, but once they touch our hearts and our souls, we might do a lot of stupid things. So where do they come from? How do they act? First, they have a very thorough preparation for any attack. We live in a cybersecurity, we live in a cyber world, and we leave a lot of traces and footprints, digital footprints on Telegram, social media, stores. We do not imagine our lives without the internet. So scammers first can study us. They can take all this information, create a plan, learn about our habits. They can also use modern technologies and create deepfakes. They can impersonate people who we know, maybe our relatives, our friends, acquaintances, teachers, professors, and then they go through this multi-stage plan. So first they might be contacted by a professor, maybe by a relative, then they will be contacted by an employee from one of the banks. And this is what usually happens. They receive a call from a so-called security operations center, and they play a game. They can impersonate police officials, police officers, even state officials, somebody from local municipality. And you have to understand general rules to protect yourself and how to protect yourself. So first of all, if you receive a call and they start pushing for emotions, for happiness, for anger, for fear. So you receive a call from someone you don't know and they start talking about money. You just put down the phone and that's all. If you have any doubts about money, put down the phone and make the call yourself to your bank, or maybe find the phone number on the official website. You call it yourself. You do not disclose personal information, bank and account information, passport data. You do not read messages and emails which you receive from unknown sources and numbers. You do not call them back. You do not obviously use phishing links. You do not download unknown exe files or just any files. You install secure antivirus and firewall on all the devices you use, including PC and smartphones, and obviously update it periodically. But most and foremost, have a certain level of paranoia that you do not trust anyone and every time. You double check, you triple check it, especially when it is important. You check it with open source data from official sources, just not to fall prey. Still, if for some reason this happened and you suffered from this attack, scammers were able to steal your money. So what do? You have to take 3 very important steps. First, you block your credit card, your banking card. You can do this via bank application, you can make a phone call, or you can go physically to the bank office. Then within the day, within 24 hours, you have to file an application, you have to file a document that there was a fraud activity without your agreement. And now you have to go there physically, but since the October 2025, you can do this via an application, and I will talk about it a bit later. Step number 3 is obviously send your application to send your complaint to the police so that you have higher chance to return the money and punish the criminals. Next. The next problem is very important, especially for every one of us. Droppers. Who are droppers and what is a drop?
Помощник, можно так сказать.
Dropper is an assistant, so to say, maybe an accomplice to scammers. They do not initiate criminals, they do not initiate crimes, but they help, they assist scammers with their illegal activity. So what and how can they do? For example, they can receive money on their banking account and then they give it to someone else. Maybe they go to an ATM machine and give out cash money, or maybe droppers receive stolen money in cash, then they put it on their banking account and they send it further down the chain so that it's really hard to track the money. Who is within this risk zone? Unfortunately, teenagers are in this area, in this risk zone, from 14 to 18 years old, students, people who have difficult conditions, living conditions, people who moved from villages to cities, from small towns to big cities, and who have problems with job, with financial security. And they think, well, that's not a big deal. I just gave up my banking data.
Ставьте доступ к вашему
you just do not have to do anything. You just
вашу карту. Казалось бы,
so maybe you just give up your card. Maybe it's
ну что будет такого?
you do not have anything there. You do not have money. So why would you care if you give it up or not?
У которого похитили деньги, именно
But for a person who lost his money,
чью карту ушли деньги.
well, you will become this dropper. You will become a point in this criminal chain
Очень аккуратно.
if you just give up your card and then your card used in order to transfer money from one bank account to a different bank account. So we have to pay extra attention to these tools. How do people become droppers? Well, you can become a dropper even if you do not want or had no idea. Sometimes people do this intentionally. They give up their cards. That's a criminal activity. This is 100% illegal. And
Любой человек может столкнуться.
but anyone can face this problem when they look for a job on the internet, when they are promised easy money
В обмен на прибыль.
and they are asked to send some money so that they can receive more money, or maybe they are asked to provide access to these banking remote service control tools. So you have to be extra careful to any information on the internet that provides a lot of financial opportunities without any experience, and you do not provide your access to your bank accounts, to your credit card. What do droppers face? Well, it doesn't really matter if it was their initiative or not, if they were involved by other criminals. It does not matter because droppers will face charges. It can be penal code, but it can also be an administrative violation. And droppers get into the database of the Bank of Russia that they violated the law. So once they go there,
Были переведены деньги, они
once they become part of this database
России. Доступ к этой
of the Bank of Russia,
имеют все банки.
all the banks have access to this database. And then banks can block
Практически
cards, credit cards, banking cards, and access to online application once they see this.
сотрудников правоохранительных органов от МВД
If they get this information from
обязательно. То есть,
the Russian police, this is what will happen.
кроме того,
All the cards the droppers have will be blocked.
работает
Besides that, the Bank of Russia
сделать жизнь дропов все
is
сложнее.
actively making the life of droppers harder and harder. And
Банк не заблокировал доступ к
since 15th of May 2025, if droppers
перевод
do not have their cards blocked for some reason, then banking transfers
человека, который находится в базе данных Банка России,
for the person who is inside this Bank of Russia databases will be limited by 100,000 rubles per month.
людям
They will not be able to use their cards to send money to different people.
переводить
In order to do so, they would have to go physically to the bank and transfer money and providing all the necessary documents.
этого года банки не будут выдавать
After this 1st of September 2025, this year, the banks will not give new
находятся в базе данных.
credit cards to people who already are in the database of the Bank of Russia.
Усложняется.
And by doing so, the life of droppers will become really, really hard. And obviously, they face potential criminal charges.
Еще раз
So how do you
говорим с вами,
protect yourself from dropping, from droppers? As I said, do not perform any
предоставлять
monetary operations on someone else's behalf. Do not provide your credit card. Do not give up your bank account details.
заработок.
And be very wary about potential
Которые
easy money. And I would like to ask teachers and parents, please talk to your children. Please talk to your students about financial literacy.
контроля. Сейчас это
Have parental control on
Кроме того,
your banking applications, especially for your children.
банки
Since the March of this year, banks
о выдаче платежной карты включить пункт
can include a point
извещения родителей.
when you make a contract with them that parents
Родителю сообщают об этом и обо всех
will be notified if children have a credit card or a banking card, and parents will receive all the information regarding the money transfer for their children's banking cards. And please talk to your children if they want to use cards and buy something. You should have a discussion first. The Bank of Russia helps with this process so that the banks would protect citizens from financial loss. I've already mentioned multiple new rules that will be observed since 2025. Federal Law 369 has those rules that made it harder for scammers, for droppers. It was enacted on 25th of July in 2024. And because of that, now there's a 2-day cool-down period for data update. So, for example, if there is a data in the database of the Bank of Russia, it will not send the money at the same time because it will notify the payer, do they actually want to send money for these bank accounts? Because we have these bank accounts in our database. It is a potential scam. And if they verify, then the transfer will happen only after 48 hours. Once again, banks turn off the access for droppers. If banks do not provide enough protection from scammers, if they do not have this cool-down period, if they do not notify the original payer, then they would have to reimburse the money stolen by the scammers within 30 days. Another point is that people are giving up the money, but they also give up debt. February this year, Federal Law 9 was approved, which is aimed at credit fraud and making it harder to transfer this money. Cool-down period will be both for transfers, but also for debts and micro-debts, micro-loans. So before you receive money after signing the contract, the person will have to think again and again. If the credit sum from 50,000 rubles to 200,000 rubles, they would have to think 2 hours. If it's more than 200,000 hours, they would have to think about it for 48 hours before they can actually receive the loan. The information exchange will increase between banking organizations and credit history bureau. This is done so that a person would not be able to take multiple credits, multiple loans from different organizations and institutions. And microfinance organizations will be able to work online only if they have all the necessary information about the payer and about the loaner. Next point is that it is much harder to cash out stolen money. Because of that law, droppers will not be able to transfer more than 100,000 rubles per month. The Bank of Russia is not limited by the federal laws, and we know about this. We improve our legislature. So since October 1st, 2025, major banks will have a special button. This button helps people who are being manipulated, who lost their money. Now they can ask help from the bank, and they have to go there within 24 hours. But now you can do this online. You can do this in your banking application. You send a complaint, you get a document, which you can go and give to the police later, and you can verify that the operation from the Bank of Russia is actually a fraudulent activity. According to the Federal Law 851, parents receive notification when their children receive credit cards or when there are any money transfers on their children's credit cards. So once again, I would like to talk about the main rules on how to protect from scammers. First and foremost, if you receive a call, if somebody talks about money, if they push on your emotional buttons, you put down the phone immediately. You call to the bank, you call to your bank only using official phone numbers. You do not disclose your bank account details. You do not use suspicious links. You do not trust your bank data details, your bank cards, and access to your accounts. I wish you all the good. Please do not get scammed. And if you have any questions, I will be just nearby and I will be able to answer your questions. Thank you very much. The Bank of Russia cares about our citizens.
Непременно.
Когда-то вы работали вместе.
That is great. That is great. We worked with Elvira before.
Ребята банка.
And actually, that's actually a very good way for the Bank of Russia, how they care about the population.